And we are on air, people. Do you want to introduce yourself, Kat?
Sure. Hi, I am Kara Chase. I am a social media strategist. A little bit about me. I used to be in law enforcement, and then I was the social media manager for Megadeth and Dave Mustaine. And now I am my own boss lady. So I help small businesses, mostly solopreneurs to small businesses, figure out what they need to be doing on social media so they can stay productive, get it done, and actually use social media in a way that's going to benefit their brand. And so we talk strategy. I do everything from retainer services to coming up with entire strategies for brands to implement. And I always have a mug of the day, and today it's the hashtag mug. So that's a little about me.
Excellent. Okay, so let me introduce myself. I'm Kat, for those who haven't met me before. My business is called The Straight Talking Ginger. As I always say, kind of does what it says on the tin. And I really deal with mindsets and psychology and what holds us back as entrepreneurs and small business owners, because we usually throw ourselves into, I am going to start a business and it's world domination. And then you try everything under the sun and you go down digital rabbit holes on the interwebs trying to learn everything about digital marketing and social media and all of this good stuff. And then actually you need to question, are you the right entrepreneurial leader for your business? And that's kind of what I let you get under the hood of. I do profiling. That's my background. I used to head up a bit of an intelligence department for a covert agency, shall we say. And now I just profile lovely people for small businesses rather than bad guys. So that's kind of a bit about me. So lovely to have you out here. Nice to see people. So Kat, before we continue, do you want to just put your website in the chat box as well?
Sure. My website is very simple. It's just me, myself, and I. So Kat and I work so well together because we have similar backgrounds in work history. So we kind of speak the same language. And it's amazing how much productivity and social media go together or don't go together if it's a problem for you. So Kat doing, whipping those small business owners into shape as far as how to actually run their business and how they need to structure their business based on their personality and every amazing thing that you do. Social media is probably the number one, if not in the top three, depending on the person, ways that small business owners lose productivity because it is such a rabbit hole. And it's really hard to figure out how to be effective and do it in a timely manner as far as how much time it takes up in your day. So every week we get on here and we talk about those two subjects, and there's never a lack of things to talk about. Amazingly enough, even with the same umbrella subject, there's always some new facet of it.
Yeah, we can wax lyrical about this stuff because we always have a catch up before we come on air. And as Cara says, we always do the what will we talk about? And actually, it's incredible the experiences that we've had in our business. So we're not just talking about theory here, folks. It's usually about something either of Cara and I have experienced during the last week, which you'll know as a small business owner, or if you're even thinking about setting up, if you make a plan, be prepared to change that plan.
Adaptability.
Because totally, life happens. And I can assure you, as a control freak, that's really difficult for me. But absolutely, that's what you need to be doing. Oh, totally. It's like, how dare you? Do you not know I'm in charge? But seriously, you need to be able to deal with that stuff. And that's really why we always talk about productivity. And as Cara said, one of the biggest time sucks is always social media, because people just go down a rabbit hole and they're trying to come up with the next big trend and all sorts. And you hit the nail on the head, Cara. It was about how are you effective with your time as well.
Right.
Because your time costs money and you're charging your time costs money as well.
I'm going to make a viral video. I think I'm going to go do that. People and social media is one of those bright, shiny things where people get distracted by what other people are doing or the latest and greatest or whatever, and they make the mistake of not having a really good foundation for understanding how their brand is going to use social media to meet their marketing objectives, because social media is part of marketing. Yeah. And a lot of that is, you know, what you talk about, Kat, with the way that people work and their energy levels, and you know, you need to kind of, you've got to have a really good foundation before you start getting into what you're going to post or where you're going to post it even.
Absolutely. And you need to know how you operate as a person. That's the bit that I concentrate on, as you know. And when we talk about energy levels, it always seems a wee bit kind of woo-woo. I always think it maybe comes across like that. But it's more about, if you think about it, when you're trying to multitask and you've got so much on your to-do list, flipping your focus to each of those things is wasting precious time, because you might think you're able to multitask. Nobody can. I'm just going to break that myth right now. Nobody can. If they can, they can bottle it and sell it for millions. And the time taken for your brain to refocus on something else and jump about, you're wasting precious time. You've only got 24 hours each day. And I can assure you, most of you don't even want to work for those 24 hours each day. That's not why I set up in business. Nobody ever said, oh, I can't wait to work 7 hours a week and never see my family.
Right.
Nobody ever says that. So you've got to use your time productively so that when you're having a really crappy day, you don't feel guilty about it.
And you still can get everything done.
Oh, yeah, totally. And that's the thing, you know, business it's difficult, but at the same time, it shouldn't be that hard. Mm-hmm. If you make a plan, and what you'll find is Cara and I are very much about strategy and about making a plan. So we are those personality types. I understand not everybody is like that. Oh, totally. And I come up with, so for MD who watched the previous Blab that we did with Dre, we had the lovely Dre from the Branded Solopreneur on last week. And she hated the word, what was it she hates? System?
Webinar? No.
Webinar system, but she hates the word. She's like, I'm not bothered with that word system. So I was like, oh, what am I going to come up with? You need a power process.
A power
process.
Brilliant. Perfect.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is, because I bang on about people having a blueprint to get their stuff done based on who they are personally, not based on what MD else does or following their stuff. Doing your own thing for yourself and having a power process that you can pull out and know how you're going to operate when the week's pretty hard and life is happening around about you, so stuff still happens. Exactly. It's about those pressures that we can't control. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what we were going to be talking about today. It's about applying deadlines to yourself. You know how when you work for yourself, you're like, I'm the boss and I'm going to get that done in a month. Absolutely. No, you need to like pretend that you're also employing you, and you'd be a really crappy employee if you didn't get your stuff done. So it's about applying a bit of pressure, creating some deadlines, and the reason why it works. Because you've done that exactly this week.
Well, and I think you and I know you and I are very similar in that we're the type of personality that performs well under pressure. It's why we used to do what we used to do, because we excel at that kind of being able to perform under those circumstances. So when it's not external influences and you're sitting at home and you're going, okay, I'm my own boss. How am I going to make some freaking money? What am I going to do? How, am I going to do a campaign on social media? Am I going to put together a course? Am I going to, whatever it is? And it tends to be this kind of nebulous thing. Like when you sit down to create your goals for the year or what you want to do for the year, and you're like, oh, well, in spring, I'm going to do this. And in summer, I'm going to do this. If you don't sit down and look at your calendar and say, I am launching my course on this day, and then put it out there, it just won't happen. Maybe it will for some people, but for most people, it won't happen unless you actually commit to a day and then you put it out there.
If it ain't written down, it doesn't exist.
Yes, exactly.
The bottom line.
Exactly.
If it ain't written down, it doesn't exist. You can keep telling yourself it's going to happen, but it absolutely won't. And Cara, you were kind enough to let me guest post for your lovely people. And exactly that. It was, what was it entitled? Screw the goals, get a system,
Through the
get a
goals,
power
get
process.
right.
Yeah, but you know, you can set as many goals as you goddamn like, but unless you get off your ass and you create a system to get you to that end result, nothing is going to happen.
Yep.
Nothing. I can assure you. I don't even need a crystal ball to
Right.
tell that and predict that's what will happen.
It's not going to happen. You'll end up watching Netflix too much, and falling down the rabbit hole of Facebook and whatever, and it just another day will go by and you haven't mapped out a power process or a strategy or whatever. And one of the things that I think is a step that people miss, and I have definitely been guilty of missing this in the past, is whenever you do something new for your business, like I just put together my first mini course that's launching into a full-fledged course, track everything that you're doing as you're going through it so that you can replicate it next time really easily instead of having to try and remind yourself how you did it the first time.
That's I totally agree with that. That is a power process right there. I'm going to give you props for that, Cara Chase. But absolutely. And it's like you need to make life easy for yourself. Everybody talks about small business owners and entrepreneurs and solopreneurs being always on. And, it creates this image of people having to work every hour in the day, in the week, in the month. And it's just bullshit, people. Honestly, I just don't agree with it. Controversially, that's usually kind of things I go against the tide with these things. And actually, why would we make things really difficult ourselves? I always come up, I can't remember who the quote came from, but it's like the world is not made better by like great people, early risers. It's made by people finding ways to do something quicker and easier. And it's so true. And that's exactly as you said, if I'm going to do something, let me write it down. I'll record it in Evernote. I'll put it in a Word document. I did the exact same the other day. I've created this quiz, and I'm so,
this is awesome. I love that.
So
quiz.
Delighted.
I love it.
Little free quiz, just based on a really basic version of profiling, just for a bit of fun. But it looks, to me, it looks all right. I created all the graphics, I put it together. But see, when I actually had to write it down, what I did, I'm so glad I did, because when I go to create one in the future, I now know the process that I need to go through. And it's exactly what you were talking about. You're going to hit the wee techie troubles about trying to embed it into your website and all of that. It's those stuff, it's that kind of techie stuff always holds you back and makes you feel a bit overwhelmed. But now I know how to do it, and I know how to do it the next time. So yeah, I love it. It was great. It's really fun, and thank you, Cara, for going through it. Although you threw me with your result, because you're all about MD who knows Cara and knows her social media. She's all about the analytics. She's always about tracking that, what works for you, what doesn't, and that didn't lend itself to actually what your love is strategy. And that's the difference. This is why I do the profiling, because skills like your analytics are things that you've picked up and you learned and you can use. But what you love is the big picture thinking and the big strategy. So
I absolutely love head in the clouds. That was my absolute favorite thing when I worked for Megadeth, because you have the capability of doing these really fun things on a huge scale. So coming up with these super fun campaigns and contests and getting the fans involved. And I mean, I could rattle off like 10 different campaign ideas that nobody had ever done before in 20 minutes. Yeah. I love that stuff. However, analytics is how people finally get to understand the value of social media.
Absolutely.
Right?
Nobody likes a vanity measure. Nobody's interested in see, when you're talking about likes, nobody likes a vanity measure. It means nothing.
It means nothing. you know, and a lot of people get caught up on, well, you know, how many new likes did I get this week on my page or whatever. And it's like, well, it doesn't matter. You could have 50,000 likes on your Facebook page. And if no one's having a conversation with you, then they're not buying from you. So what does it matter? So yeah, the analytics is definitely, it's where people finally have that light bulb of like, oh, this is why this matters, because now I can see, you know, how this post led to this conversation and all of these other elements that led to a brand affinity, ambassador, all of that. So it is that you're exactly right. It's a skill, but it's not my passion in social media.
But the thing is, you know exactly how to use it. And this is why I love kind of the work that we do together, because it does fit so well in terms of that productivity, because knowing the analytics, you then know where to focus your time. And that's gold right there, because what tends to happen is we do all the, you know, I've talked about it before, the little circle with all the arrows coming out of it, and we're going in 100 million different directions, and we're trying to multitask and spin 23 plates. When in actual fact, when we understand the underpinning analytics and the, you know, a wee bit of research, a wee bit of time, it doesn't need to be confusing, or just get somebody to do it for you. You know, find someone who can do it for you, like Cara, professional, and then you know exactly where to focus your time. So on a Monday afternoon, because you're audio, and you can set up all your Pinterest pins and all your social media posts and everything else. But then you know when to do it, which best time for you, rather than your day controlling you, because there is nothing worse. I hate somebody else controlling my day.
It goes to that whole thing of like, run your day, don't let your day run you. And social media is one of those things that runs people, because they just get led around by the nose through the interwebs. and they don't have a plan. I mean, I am literally on Facebook all day for my clients, for, you know, all of these things. I use a fraction of that time for my own personal whatever, because I get on there, I know what I'm there for, I know how I'm using it for myself and for clients, for business purposes. Obviously I have my personal and whatever. But one of the things I talked about yesterday on my, if you'll allow me to wax a little lyrical, poetic, however you say it, about it, is when you have your power process, I love that, down for your content and your scheduling and your analytics and the pillars of your social media strategy, what that does is it frees up your time for the engagement on social media, which is the whole point of social media and how you're going to build those relationships. You don't build relationships by taking way too much time to post 20 tweets a day, but then never actually talking to people.
Oh, yeah, you need to engage. It's called social media for a reason. The clue is in the title.
Right. You know? There's a clue.
There's a clue in the blinking title. But I think people are frightened to reach out sometimes, and they're always looking for people to maybe reach out to them. I don't know. You know, I talk about this all the time. I'm an introvert at heart, whilst I do these things and I turn it on and do jazz hands, you know, while I'm here. But you know, I find it really hard on social media to reach out to people and have a conversation. But actually, the more you do it, it's like anything with practice, and you reach out and you find the right people and the like-minded people. And it was funny because I had done a little test, and Cara knows about this, for my Twitter feed. So it's always the 80-20 rule. Post other people's stuff that is of value to your particular tribe, if you like, and 20% of your own stuff. So I'd done a little test using RSS feeds in particular, and you can do it through Feedly. I've done it through a kind of different way of doing things, but anyway. And I literally have doubled my Twitter following. Now, I'm not into vanity measures, as I've said, but some of the conversations that I've had with people who now say, oh, Kat, we didn't even know you were there. This is brilliant. Love what you do. And it would never have happened if I hadn't have just, and I'm not talking about spending, I don't spend any time on this. I just
Right.
picking the right things that complement your business and sharing them with the people who want to follow you.
Right.
And it could be anything, you know, I do all mindset coaching, but I do still put things out there about social media, about blogging, because that's really the online world. That's what people are looking at. But I've still got engagement because they then think, oh, wait a minute, you're right. I do need this blueprint that you keep banging on about, you know, create my own blueprint. And it's just about conversations. It's a chance for you to, I always say, nail your business in about 2 sentences. So then when MD asks you, or you're replying in a Twitter follow-up conversation, you can say exactly what it is that you do. And make sure your bio reflects that as well. I mean, I know I'm only talking about Twitter here, but it's the same. Be consistent across all of those platforms that you choose to use for your business. And Cara,
How many
you'll always
times am I like, be consistent?
oh,
Right?
absolutely. And you always say, and I always go back to that original conversations we had when we first met. And it was always about what platforms work for your business, because not everything works. So don't do all that. I need to be on 20 million platforms and I need to be doing this all the time, because this is why we're saying social media is the biggest time suck for entrepreneurs online in that space. It's crazy if that's how you're spending your time. It's not wise to spend
No,
your
it
time
is
doing.
not in any way, shape, or form. Yeah, and it goes back to like when you talk about subject areas. I talked about this yesterday as one of the foundations before you can even get started is know what you're talking about, what you want to talk about. So for me, I post about social media, small business, productivity, and sometimes coffee because it's just a thing.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I know that the content that I'm going to share has to be those 4 subject areas because your fans want to know what to expect from you. They want to know when they're following you on Twitter or wherever other platform you're on, they know what to expect. If I was following somebody on Instagram and they posted all these beautiful pictures about coffee, and then all of a sudden they decided to change and they started posting about, you know, whatever, street art or, you know, some other thing, I'd be like, well, that's not really what I'm interested in anymore. So I'm not even going to bother. So you have to be consistent. And you have to know what you're talking about and where your audience is. Pick your platforms, do 2 to 3, talk about spinning plates, do 2 to 3 really, really well before you even think about expanding into someplace else. So
yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering, I noticed in the questions there, spy gadget rentals, you're in the right place, given our backgrounds. You know more.
yes,
Have to.
yes.
But yeah, it's kind of like, how can you not engage with customers when we're all so connected? And it's a personal thing. Sometimes it's just people get in their own way. You know, they do it on social media, get in their own way. They go out with a plan and they think, I need to engage and I need to be social with people that I connect with. And some people just find that really difficult for whatever reason, but you need to get over it.
Well, here's the other part of that I think you might be touching on, Monty, is small business owners who don't really understand. They have this like, I know I have to do social media, but I don't really get it. It's a pain in my butt. I don't really understand what that has to do with my marketing or my bottom line. And so they go out and they do a little bit of research and they find all of these automated tools where they are auto posting or it's automated stuff, whether it's auto posting or sharing between platforms, like they put something out and then it shares the same thing to every platform, whatever it is. And so in their mind, they think, okay, check mark, done. Social media, check mark, done. I've got all this automated shit set up. And that's exactly what it is shit. And they never go back and look to see if anyone is in their conversation responding, if anybody cares, if, you know, like they don't do that engagement follow-up part of it. So I see a ton of small businesses when I go and talk to them and they're like, oh, well, you know, every time we do a blog, it automatically pushes out to Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And so we just don't have to, you know, we're good there. And I'm like,
I know. It's madness.
And then you go and look Hi, Natasha. You go and look, and like people are asking them questions on their Facebook page, and they never go on to respond because they think they've checked the box of social media. And it's like,
but that's the problem. You know, the interwebs as they are, and that digital rabbit hole that we always talk about, it creates that feeling that tick, the job is done. And you know, I'm just looking at the question again from you, Monty, about how do you know ultimately who's going to mention you to someone else unless you're on that platform? And I get that, because if you're not on Pinterest and somebody shares your blog on Pinterest, you're never going to see it. But I don't know, Cara, you'll be able to say this more than me, but I don't know if you necessarily then, because it's not for your business, need to go on Pinterest unless that's a good place for you to be. So
here's the thing. Here's the thing. And this will go to the other question that you asked Monty just now, which is if customers are interested, they'll contact you, correct? Yes, however, but they contact you on their preferred platform. For instance, if you put something on Pinterest and someone sees it on Pinterest, they're going to contact you via Pinterest. If you tweet something, they're going to tweet at you or direct message you. They're not going to go to your website and look up your phone number and call you. They're not. And if you didn't notice, if you're not on Facebook as a business page, maybe you have noticed, they are actually ranking pages based on how quickly you respond on Facebook to customers that reach out to you on Facebook. Social media is becoming a huge facet of customer service, and they will contact you. So the short answer is yes, they'll contact you, but they're not going to look up your freaking email address and your phone number. They're going to contact you on the social media platform that they found you on.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I hope that answers your question.
But that's really interesting you said about Facebook. I've noticed that little thing normally responds within 15 minutes or a day. I just thought that was the person who put that on, but that's Facebook.
That is Facebook. When you have somebody contact you on your page, if you don't respond, and I'm the kind of person, I do the customer service stuff and the checking in with the engagement stuff like once a day because it's just me. I don't have a team and I have to be productive and effective with my time. And so people would contact me through my page and it would say like, takes you a day to respond quicker to unlock this badge or whatever it is that I forget the verbiage exactly. Right, okay. And I was having a conversation with someone on Facebook the other day, and I happened to be on when they messaged my page. And so we were having a conversation on my page, and it went up to like responds within 3 minutes. Here's your gold star, you know, whatever. So yes, that is not something that you can do. Facebook does it for you. And here's the other insider information about that. The Messenger app. The reason they made it standalone from Facebook is they are positioning it to be able to embed in websites so that websites can have online real-time chat customer service via Messenger.
So like a live chat. So if something is a bit confusing or we've made an offer on this page and we're not quite sure, that's the method that they're hoping to maybe people will embed on their site. Is that what you mean?
They're hoping people will embed Messenger as a standalone plugin on their websites.
Wow.
That's what they're doing.
Oh, okay.
So they're moving towards this whole customer service. Yeah. Facebook is now a business. It is now about advertising. It is about providing value to your customers, all of that kind of stuff. So you cannot rely on if somebody wants to talk to you, they'll call you or email you or whatever. If you are on a social media platform, you better build in the time to engage and deal with customer service.
And that just feeds in perfectly to what we always wax lyrical about is if you don't have a power process, we're now calling it a power process in place, you are just going to spend all of your day answering people's questions, and it's just not a good use of your time. It's not good customer service. Doesn't need to be you sitting by your phone all the time making replies to everybody. It's just exactly that. It's making a plan, right? I'll reply, within 24 hours or whatever the heck it is, and making sure that you're engaged with people. So it just seems really straightforward, but I think it can be so complex, and you're right, people just get caught up in, as long as I've got a free tool that puts stuff out for me and I give no other thought to it, which I'm going to hold my hands up and say, like, I did that at the very beginning of setting up my business, because I don't.
A lot of people do.
Yeah, because, it's not my area of expertise. And again, harking back to previous Blab, this is why you need to hire a professional in your business. And I think when we start out in business, we don't have a lot of cash to chuck around. So we're not thinking about, I don't really want to spend money on getting all my graphics made or my logo done or getting a social media person in or getting a mindset coach in. And I get that, but you need to be aware that at some point, if you measure the amount of time that you're spending trying to find out and learn something,
right,
just think about your hourly rate. And I say that every time, think about your hourly rate that you spend trying to work that out versus someday being able to do something for you straight away that actually works, because it's looking at those analytics again, shoving crap.
And sorry. No. The really cool thing about discovering, going through the process and writing down the process and figuring out what works for you is, I think a lot of us are solopreneurs. Right now I'm a solopreneur. But that's not where I want to stay. I completely plan on world domination and having a team and all this kind of stuff. And when you, from the get-go, create your power, you better hashtag the shit out of power process, lady. Claim it now. Seriously. Oh my God. I
have claimed it. It's mine. I'm going to trademark it.
There you go. You use those to train your team. When you have a checklist for, this is exactly how to set up a webinar and the lead page that goes with it and the upsell and whatever, and you have your checklist and your process, you hand it to your team member, whoever's working for you, and you say, this is exactly how to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. It just makes your life, why would you make your life so hard? I don't get it. People just make things so tough for themselves. And I understand that we don't write everything down as we're going along. I get it. But maybe you should start, for anybody who's not doing it, just try, just a little bit, just a baby step, just try writing down one thing every day and doing it. It's like me, I've decided I'm eating half a grapefruit before every meal. Don't ask me why. Again, I just... Oh, I love it. It's just sour and bitter, like my personality.
My kiddo chews on lemons.
I do that as well.
Something wrong with that child. Just saying.
Yeah, as I say, I do it because it matches my really bitter and sour personality. Again, ain't called straight talking gingerbread.
Right.
Yeah. But again, it's like people are like, why are you doing that? Are you off your head? So again, it's a testing thing that I'm doing at the moment. But I'm not hitting it every time. I'm not managing it every time. But it's like a baby step, and don't feel guilty if you don't hit it. So just start before you're ready. I can't say this enough. Start before you are ready, and then.
Oh, I think that was originally what we had planned on talking about today, right? Starting before you're ready, and just giving yourself that deadline and that go-to, and putting a little bit of pressure on yourself to get it done, and how you do that.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing. It could be simple as just setting a deadline. Cara and I were talking about before we come on air about, you can say to the cows come home, I'm going to launch a course in summer. Right. Yeah. What is that date? What is the process? That's the goal. This is why I always talk about that's the goal. But what's the power process that underpins to get you to that point? And the other thing that I do, which I find works really well, is I've got an accountability kind of partner, if you like. A girl who's got a slightly different business to me. We don't do the same thing. and we meet on a fortnightly basis, and we hold one another accountable about you said you were going to do,
Right.
and you haven't done it. And oh man, talk about the pressure. Even though we're mates, she's
Yeah.
really good at saying, do you know what? Get your stuff together, get it done. This is what you teach other people. And that's the thing, it's easy to let it slip when it's just you in control, because it's easy to, you know, make allowances for yourself, or I'll just go and make another cup of tea, or whatever that.
Procrastination.
Oh, I know. Oh, it is just evil.
Yep. Yep. I'm the queen
Evil.
of like figuring out how to shoehorn my time into the last minute of like, yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. No, I get it. Well, and like what I'm going through right now, again, we're not just like waxing poetic about theory. We do all of this, and we are learning as we're going along and figuring out what works. And what I'm doing right now, if I can allow just a wee little plug.
Yes.
Is I just created a course on how to build your content calendar on social media. And it is a very no bullshit. It's called the No Bullshit Content Calendar. And it is about exactly what Kat and I have been talking about, where it's have a process, have a system, you know what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and get it done so you can spend the rest of your allotted social media time actually engaging. And so I knew that I wanted to do a free webinar, and that would parlay into a much meatier, heftier course, because there's so much to talk about when it comes to that kind of, process and everything. And I did the free webinar yesterday, and I have all the information for the course. I have the outline, whatever, but I haven't actually put it in where the course is. And it's the whole theory of like getting it done and getting started and building that momentum is that will get you there far quicker than I have to have everything done and perfect before I even take that first step. And that's been a huge process for me, because I am naturally the kind of person that's like, I want it all figured out, and I want to see exactly how I'm going to get from A to Z and have it done perfectly before I even put myself out there. And so learning through being a solopreneur and realizing that, well, I just have to get started, I'm going through the process of taking things one step at a time and, okay, what's next? And having those deadlines is what keeps me totally accountable.
Exactly. And that's it. It's finding the balance between the perfectionism of never doing anything because you don't want people to think it was crap, or you made a mistake, or your tech was dropping. Sorry, yeah, I do this quite often in my very broad Scottish accent. Crap.
The best. It's the best.
But yeah, it's finding the balance between, right, I want to have my checklist. I want to know that I've covered everything. But then there is this weird bit in the middle that you kind of need to take a leap of faith and just think, actually, see if it doesn't go to plan, that's okay, and I'm not rubbish. Because that's what we do. It's fear of failure. I was in last night, I get roped into an event, but that's another story, and talking to a whole load of business students exactly about that, starting before you're ready. Some of them were sitting with businesses, some of them were trying to decide whether they would leave university and just go and do their business rather than continuing with their chemistry degree. And, I was thinking, God, this is a big responsibility. If I tell somebody, yeah, just leave your degree and go forth and you will be fantastic, and world domination will be yours. But the point I was making to them was like, you'll never find out unless you start to speak to people, and you'll never find out if you just go out there and sell whatever it is that you're selling. But yeah, at the backup, I can't deny it. I'm that power process person. I'm that checklist person myself. But don't let it hold you back, because it's so easy to keep thinking, oh, just one more thing, or if I just research something else, or if I just double check that, the next trend and I'm on top of it, and maybe I should be doing that instead. You'll never, ever do it. And if it's not written down, I always suggest a good old-fashioned pen and paper in a diary, not an app, none of that, just a good old-fashioned pen
Yep.
and a paper and write it down and put a date next to it.
That is how I got my webinar done, because I knew exactly what I wanted to say. But sitting down in front of PowerPoint and creating everything is totally the whole like, blank piece of paper freeze where you're like, I don't even, whatever. And I stepped away from my computer and I took my notebook and I sat on the couch with a glass of wine, and literally it took me 10 minutes to write out my entire webinar, because I had it in my head. And then when I had the outline, I was able to go back into PowerPoint and just fill in exactly what I had already outlined. But just that change of scenery, the change of process, whatever it is, makes a huge difference in just getting it done.
Oh, totally. And I mean, there'll be varying kind of situations that people are in watching this blab, whether you work at home, home office, or it's at your kitchen table, or you've got an actual real office somewhere, office space. But I think it's one of the best things to do is when you're stuck, and you're stuck, because your mind's just, the cogs are turning, but nothing's actually happening. Change the scenery, and it's something as simple as that. I do it myself. I'm sitting at my desk just now, but sometimes I just need to go and sit on the couch, or I need to take the laptop out to the local coffee shop just to like switch up something in my brain so that it kind of unlocks. It's almost like, gamify my brain by going to the local coffee shop.
3 o'clock every day. And I think for almost everyone, especially working in an office, 3 o'clock, I'm like, cannot for the life of me get anything like focused done. And sometimes it's change of scenery for me. Like the other day, I decided to work from my dining room table because I needed to spread out and I needed to kind of big picture stuff. And so I needed the space. And sometimes I need to take a break, and I'm going to read for 30 minutes, not a business book, like a novel. I'm going to read and just give my brain that chance to recombobulate.
Isn't it such a fabulous word?
You have the best words. And then you can get back to it. But you pay attention. You'll know throughout the day. And this is part of what I love about what you do, Kat, is the whole energy thing about knowing. It's not that you have to not do anything. It's that you have to do something different.
Yeah. Switch it up, but don't just switch it up for a couple of minutes. It's like, as I said, I've mentioned I'm an introvert at heart. So how I recharge my energy is by myself. It's not around people. And when I go and do in-person events in the local area, I go in and I give it jazz hands, and I'm on, and I'm doing my straight talking ginger thing, and I'm almost, busting some shapes on the dance floor. That's kind of what it looks like when I'm doing my thing. And I come home, and honestly, it's as if somebody's just pulled the plugs out, pulled the batteries out, and I literally have to lie down, lie flat. I can't even just sit and have a cup of tea. I need to lie flat.
I want to sit in the corner in the dark by myself for like an hour. I'm like,
yeah, it's like, as I said, I have got a sign that says I have reached maximum people exposure. And honestly, so you need to know how your energy works so that you know that you're getting the best out of your day. So social media for Cara, that's your thing. That's what you do for your clients, and you work out how your energy. Sorry, I was just a bit distracted there.
That's funny. No, that's okay. That's awesome, Robin.
Oh, recombobulation area. Oh, I'm so going to steal that.
Power process,
I'm going to
population area. Oh my God, Kat, you were like gold mine today.
Absolutely. See, I'm on it.
Yesterday.
Oh my
God. So the webinar was an hour, but then it was a half an hour before with my co-host doing all the tech stuff and making sure everything was working. And afterwards, same thing, where it was like somebody pulled a plug out of me, and I literally, like, I could have fallen out of my chair and just stayed where I laid. That would have been totally fine. But because of what it was, I had to do all the follow-up stuff. I had to make sure the replay email was ready to go. I had to redirect the opt-in URL. I had this whole checklist of things that I had to do after the webinar. And I was it was like I wasn't even there. It's like I wasn't even there. My brain was done. So talk about the importance of checklists and knowing what you want to do and all of that stuff, because that was the only way that I got through it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It's having that, knowing that the checklist, it's just something to fall back on. As well, because when your brain's not going to be optimally primed to work perfectly every minute of every day. And if you've sorted that out, you know, I need to speak to you because I want to work out how that works. And you need that process to fall back on. That's what I always say. Have a system that underpins, just to give you that wee bit of fallback space. And you're right, recharge your energy, take a break. We're so guilty of running small businesses, and people, I hear it all the time, oh, I don't have time to take a break, and I feel guilty and I don't have time. And actually, this is backed by science, because this is how I operate. It's, if you don't break, you're not allowing your brain, it's like your smartphone, it's a computer. Brain's the same thing. If you don't plug it in and recharge it sometimes, it's just going to shut down and keep going blippy and all that kind of stuff. And your brain's no different. You need to give it a chance. You need to be just 10 minutes, even just 10 minutes, just distracting yourself with something that's quite nice.
Yeah, you cannot be productive if you're tapped out. You cannot be productive. You just can't.
No, absolutely. And I've watched people power through. I really have. And do you know what? See, within 2 years, they burn right out. You can't sustain that.
You can't. Shit. I had a thought and it's gone. Did you see
it? Must
that?
have been
see it? Like,
yeah, it must have been a lie. If it was.
No, it was. I was going to talk about how I look forward so much to our Blab on Thursdays, because it's a chance for me to do something different in my business. Right? So the morning before, like the time that we have before our Blabs in the morning. I had to recombobulate that sentence. I'm going to use that like 50 times. So we always Kat and I always touch base a half an hour before our Blab to talk about our businesses and catch up and what we want to talk about on the Blab. And it helps me wake up, because I work from home and I don't really talk to people all day. Right? You kind of get that. So it helps me kind of wake up the talking muscles, and we figure out what we're going to do. And then we spend an hour and a half talking about our subject areas and our industries and the things that we're discovering and want to help people learn and whatever. So, you know, it might lead to sales. It might not. It's brand awareness. It's us getting ourselves out there and talking about these things that we're passionate about. So it's still business and it's still really useful for us, but it's totally different than sitting down with a PowerPoint or doing client emails or whatever. It's a different frame of mind, and it's a different energy. And I look forward to it because I know it still applies, but it's going to be fun and something different.
And it's so funny you should say that from an energy point of view, that it's your because obviously we're in different time zones, unless you hadn't worked out from Scotland.
That's a clue.
So yeah. So kind of start. So for me, we're starting at 5:30 in the evening. So for me, it is completely different. It's at the end of my day, if you like, and it's a really nice way to wind down, because as soon as I finish this, I go and have my dinner. That's what I do. You know, it's getting ready for me. I get to bed. It's magic. But yeah, that's what I do. So for me, it's like a really lovely end of the day thing, where I think it's completely different. It's not like going for a coffee with somebody and thinking, got to spend time, you know, getting to know somebody. Whereas actually we can come in here, we can do an hour and a half of virtual coffee, cup of tea, whatever you want. And people can ask questions and stuff. Yeah, I'm onto it is water.
Sure it is. Sure it is.
If it was
Could
gin,
be.
it's quite a large thing, even
It
for
is.
me.
Yes. Well, talk about a power process. Ooh.
Power process. Oh, totally. I came up with it because they put so much pressure on me. Like your system word is shit. I'm like, okay,
Right?
come up with. So yeah, power process. Absolutely.
I'm telling you, you need to hashtag the shit out of that.
I've actually looked. I'm like writing it down.
Perfect.
Recombobulate and power process.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Gold. So yeah, I see there are quite a few people. If anybody wants to jump on and ask a question, as long as you're jumping on to talk about the things that we have been talking about, caveat.
Because we've had guitar players and stuff before, so always interesting.
Some interesting people try and jump into the open seat here. But if you do want to talk about social media and productivity or any of the things that we've been talking about, we'd love to say hi.
Yeah.
What else do you want to talk about? Wow.
Well, this is the thing. Circle back to applying those pressures and deadlines, because I think it's something that's so underrated. You set up in business, you become your own boss, and you think, I'll dance to the beat of my own drum, and nobody else can tell me what to do. But
you're not the
genuinely,
boss of me.
Exactly, it's kind of like that, isn't it? And I always say it's like I am the captain of my tiny dinghy,
Right.
but I sometimes have to make myself walk the plank because I'm a rubbish employee sometimes. And
Yeah.
sometimes as the employee, there's a kind of split personality. I'm thinking my boss is a pure bitch because she doesn't let me go for lunch and stuff like
Right.
that. So yeah, it's finding the balance. So setting deadlines. I'm not talking about wee silly deadlines. I'm just talking about giving yourself, what is it I need to do? When do I need to have it done by? And get it done. And Karen and I mentioned that before about getting courses done. Both of us also sell online training. And it's not going to write itself. It's nobody's going to make the videos. I don't have a videographer to do it for me. I do everything myself. Cara, you're the same. But it's finding out the quickest way. How can I do that without it making a big old dent in my day, and just getting it done as part of, right, I now do training. This is what I need to go through, and I'll get it done by the end of next week, and build in padding time. Oh my God. I love a bit of pressure, right? And I love working to a deadline. But if you over deliver, if you under deliver, but you've over promised, do you know what? You don't deserve to have returning customers. You don't. You need to do the opposite. You need to build in that few days padding, because, as we've said, being on your own or working on your own, and even if you've got a virtual team, because I've got a few people, that kind of do stuff for me, if you like. If I don't have that padding in, life happens. Life has got a really nasty way of chucking something in.
Haha, just kidding.
Yeah, and you're like, what? Wasn't expecting this. So a wee bit of padding time, but yeah, deadlines, and write them down. Don't just airy-fairy about, because you're only kidding yourself on. You are only kidding yourself on, nobody else. So yeah, that's kind of my rant. I keep ranting about it. I'm sorry. It's
Rants are good. What's even better than writing them down? Announcing.
Oh yeah, that's why I've got an accountability partner.
Yeah,
do what you say you're going to do. And do you do that in like Facebook groups and stuff, Cara? Are you brave enough to do that?
Oh yeah, once I've decided like I really need to do this, and I look at my calendar and like, okay, so for example, and we talked about this a little bit before, I had my free webinar yesterday, but my paid course isn't launching until February 9th, which is more of a turnaround than you usually see for that type of process and system.
Yeah.
But it's because I looked at my schedule. Based on what's on my plate and what's happening in my life and the commitments that I have, I knew that I would not be able to over deliver with a really quality course if I tried to turn it right around within 48 72 hours and get it launched right away. So I pre-sold, which is what we were talking about in the beginning, the whole, like, you need to just one step at a time and all of that. But once you've looked at your calendar and you've had a really honest conversation with what's feasible to deliver that quality product, announce it on whether it's your website, on a blog, or social media, or not even just person to person, but actually like publicly having it out there. I do that because then it's like, oh shit, yeah, I really have to do this.
I now need to deliver on this. Yeah. And that's it. It's just finding ways, because it's so easy to just fall into that trap of manana and of fun, and and until you figure out where you focus your time. And that's why I always say, track what you do for, a minimum of a fortnight, 2 weeks. Best to do it for about a month, actually. Track your time and work at you. And I'm talking about, hours and minutes. I'm talking about, the time you spend going to meetings, the time you take to prep for things, the types of business things that you're doing. So, I could be working one-on-one, I could be getting in and doing workshops with 40 people, online courses, and you need to track your time, because then you'll know exactly where you're wasting it. And I don't mean by doing that you then cram in everything that you need to do and be working like an absolute horse. I'm not talking about that, but it's just knowing what is it that I do at certain times. Because I'm a big kind of advocate of, when you track your energy, what I always talk about is you're going to have high energy for the things that you love to do anyway. And I can pretty much guarantee for a lot of people that there is a part in the day, you've just said 3 o'clock, you could end up doing that daydream thing. So what you want to do is not be putting in that slot anything that you've got that's really tough and uses a lot of your brain power, or something that really drains the lifeblood out of you, like making sales or something like that, So don't do that. Just don't do that at 3 o'clock that day. Do something that you really love to do, because you're going to have higher energy for that anyway. And if you can find that balance by tracking what you do for a month, I can pretty much guarantee, and that's a big statement, folks, I can pretty much guarantee your working day will be transformed beyond belief. Because you're
absolutely right. And I love what you do. This is way back when we first started hanging out and talking, but your whole 3 lists, the to-do list and the procrastination list and the to-do, I love that, because you pick from whichever list based on your energy at the time. So like, I know at a certain point during the day, I'm not going to be able to get any meaningful work done because my energy is in the dumps and I just need to do something else. So maybe that's when, because I work from home, maybe that's when I go for a walk around the block, or I throw in a load of laundry, or all these other things in life that have to happen and you have to do. So the procrastination list is something that's just awesome.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I'm a 3-list person, which sounds a bit manic for those who don't know. But we found it, when I explained it to Cara in terms of social media, it was really interesting, because I have a to-do list, I have a procrastination list, and I have a to-done list. And it sounds, as I say, it sounds a bit mental. It works for me, it might not work for everybody. But the reason I have that is I have things on my to-do list. It kind of does what it says in the tin. You need to get through certain things. And I always make it a maximum of 3 things, because there's usually various steps to get through in that. So it's back to that kind of strategy, big picture stuff. But the procrastination list are other things that I need to get done, but are different from the things, use a different type of focus or brain power or energy than what's on my to-do list. So that when I get really hacked off and bored with the stuff that's happening on the to-do, and I'm thinking, actually, I can't face doing that right at this particular point in time today, I jump onto the procrastination list, and I always get something done. So you're always moving forward. And at the end of the day, I have my to-done list, because then it shows you what you actually achieved. Because what tends to happen is you get to the end of your day, my husband comes, did you get done? And it used to be, oh, I'm not really sure. I think I might have wasted my time today. I'm not really sure. Whereas now I can say, actually, even though I feel knackered and I'm beating myself up as if I never get everything done on my to-do list, I can look and say, actually, I got a lot done today and I achieved something. And also, it works like if you're into gratitude journals and stuff. I mean, I'm not kind of quite specific about doing that. But if you're into that kind of thing, it feeds that as well, because it means like when you're having a really shitty day, you can actually look back and say, look what I achieved and remember how good you are.
Yep. No, that's absolutely correct. And I loved what you said. And I do the same thing where I don't put down more than 3 things to do in any given day. So I have been through every iteration of like scheduling, productivity, structuring my day that anybody has ever come up with, ever. I've tried it. I've, been through it. It's kind of a sickness, actually, how much I love exploring different processes and how to do things. Like, that's exciting for me. But I have been through where you time block by the hours in the day. I used to work for an agency in an office, social media agency, and it was like our days were scheduled down to the 5 minutes with meetings and client calls and all of this kind of stuff. And the hourly time blocking for me does not work, because then it feels like I have a boss, even though the boss is me.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I immediately do that subconscious, fuck you, I'm not going to do that immediately. Right. I do. It's like this. I set myself up for having the bad employee attitude. Right.
Have you ever sought help for this split personality?
No. So, but it elicits that response in me. It elicits I don't want to be that constrained. And what else happens is that life happens, and inevitably within the first few hours of the day, your plan is already thrown off. And then you go down this spiral of today's off the rails. And so I might as well just whatever. So by having 3 priorities, you know that whenever your energy is going to facilitate it, you can deal with whatever else is going on in your day, but you have 3 priorities to do whenever that happens in the day. And it's still keeping you on task, but it sets you up for success, and it sets you up to be able to deal with whatever else happens in the day without having that off the rails feeling.
Yeah, and that's it. It can so quickly downward spiral into overwhelm if you allow it to happen. And I say that, I know that's hard for some people to hear. It's you that allows it to happen because of how your mindset works. But if you've got those power processes, this is my new term, people, just shared it with the world first. But yeah, if you've got those power processes underneath, then you're taking back a wee bit of control for yourself. And it is back to that, rather than your day controlling you. And it's funny you should say, you've tested every system and whatever. Yeah, we are the same. We are the same, because
we get along so well.
Yeah, but this is also why I preach and bore everybody to death that you need to create your own blueprint, and this is why I don't really share kind of like, a specific what a week should look like or how you should plan your day, even though I talk about productivity a lot, because it's different for everybody and it's based on you as a person. And that's why I always kind of focus on the person first.
Right.
Who are you? What is it that drives you? Where's your energy?
Right.
How's all that fitting together? And then your day is going to look completely different from somebody else, even if they've got the same personality type. So even if they were still social media strategists like you, Cara, and still the same personality type, what drives them is going to be very different from you. So There's no one size fits all approach to it. And that's why I get a wee bit hacked off when people are like releasing stuff and this is how to do your day. Is it? You try to tell me how to run my day? Do you know? It's that kind of, creates that attitude. Yeah, I get quite,
I said on the webinar yesterday that I was like, if I see one more freaking infographic on the best days and times to post on social media, I'm going to scream, because it doesn't take into account your specific audience and your brand. I have a hard time sometimes, you know, when you're talking about your own personal blueprint. I get a lot of people that will contact me that are small businesses, whatever, and they have the, well, what do you charge for social media? I can't answer that until I know what you need, because everything that I do is completely custom for the brand, their objectives, and their audience. So while I have some kind of umbrella, like, well, this typically is this, or this starts at this price or whatever, everything that I do is a completely custom strategy, because social media is not one size fits all in any way, shape, or form. And, you know, if you're doing the one size fits all, you're falling into the automated stuff that we talked about in the beginning of this Blab, and it's just not going to work. Yeah. So I'm not a VA that is going to charge you $10 an hour to tweet stuff for you 10 times a day. That is not what I do. Yeah. I do strategy that complements your social media marketing and interlaces, for lack of a better, I need to come up with a better term than that. I will. But it goes hand in hand with marketing objectives, and it's from a strategy business standpoint, not an automated VA standpoint. So
absolutely. And the thing is that, you know, hands up, social media is not my bag. It's not. I worked really hard at it to kind of get my head around it, and obviously the lovely Cara here has guided me, which is lovely. This is why we share stuff. But when I first started out, I fell into that trap. I was reading all those here is when to post, and what I didn't. What took me ages to work out, and this is embarrassing. It is really silly, but I mean, I am in Scotland, right? But a lot of my followers are actually from America and the other side of the pond, where you are, Cara. But I was posting at the completely wrong time, and I couldn't work out at first. Thought, no, but it's crickets. You know, nobody wants to get to know Cat, and I had a wee huff, I had a wee mini huff, and then it was like, oh my God, well, you know, apply a wee bit of research, you know, look at the analytics, and then go, oh yeah, my people here who don't give two hoots are in their bed, you know, sleeping. And yeah, so even just that tiny thing, so I get really hacked off when I see those posts as well. And I can understand why some people have written them, but they've forgotten that, you know, it goes wider than that. The audience is very different, and it's not a one size fits all. So you need to listen, and I mean listen through social media, whatever platform you're on. Work out when people are having conversations. Go and actively find out. It's not like we will build it, they will come. That strategy has never worked.
Never. An MD who's, especially now, it just doesn't work anymore at all.
An MD who's selling that is selling you like a complete duffer. It's nonsense, and you need to have a plan. And I don't mean we're not talking about big fancy strategies here. Cara does the no bullshit calendar. This is what we're talking. We are simplistic people. Yeah. And I don't mean that in an intelligent way. We're all about making our lives easier and more straightforward. Stop making stuff so hard for yourself.
The more time I save on doing content and scheduling content for myself and my clients, the more Netflix and wine time I have. Simple.
Absolutely. Why wouldn't you make that?
Right? This is not like I'm gonna, you know, in all my spare time, I'm gonna, you know, move forward with world peace and this and that. Like, you know, that's all, you know, great goals and whatever. But like, this is not like I'm gonna solve the world's problems because I've saved 2 hours a week that, you know, whatever. Like, the more efficient I am and the more time that I save while still getting the job done really well, the more time I have to enjoy myself, which is the whole freaking point.
Exactly. It's like, you know, you left working for an employer for a reason. You know, I personally did it so that I have control over my holidays, so that I can take time off whenever I need it. And, you know, Cara will be bored listening to me again, but it was before Christmas, And, you know, most people were kind of ramping things up just for that final week. And I was sitting on the couch watching Netflix. I couldn't, I couldn't bring myself to do anything. And whilst my website and my social media is still going, because I've automated some of it, because that's what you do, you automate without becoming a kind of socially inept robot, as I call it. So people still thought I was out there, and it meant that if there was a conversation starting, I could dip into it. You know, I could sit on the couch watching Netflix, pause it, you know, get my phone out, and still have a conversation. And that's how I want it to run. But it's not like I'm shutting people off.
Right.
You want to have conversations. That's why I do make the processes that work for how I work,
yep,
and how the people that interact with me, so that you're still there at the end. And I love it on Twitter specifically. Twitter's a platform that I've really concentrated on recently, just to do my testing on it as I do. And I love other people who I can tell who have done like a personal reply to me, not a message, like a tweet, to test if I'm a robot. You know, and I love it because I'm like, hey there, how you doing? Have a chat. And they're like, oh God, you're actually a real person. This is not like kid on. I'm like, no, I'm actually here.
Right.
But it's having set up in such a way that it allows you to hone in on those specific conversations rather than it just being a whole load of noise, because that's where people get overwhelmed, and that's where people get confused, and that's where people fall into the trap of said it, forget it.
Right.
It must be working for me.
They set it and forget it. Well, and there's so many platforms that, you know, that really relies on engagement. There's a very, very specific strategy for Instagram. If you're not going to buy followers, which it's amazing to me that people still do that. And it's so obvious, it's ridiculous. But there's a very real specific strategy to gaining great organic followers, and it takes time and engagement. You can't just post and put up a few hashtags and then never come back and then whine about why you only got 8 likes on your photos, and you only, you know, like you get it just, you've got to spend the time engaging. It's just the whole point. I don't even know how else to say it. And the more time that you have, because your process, your power process is streamlined, the more time you're going to have to actually use social for what it's intended for. But people are so savvy to the whole automated robots thing now, because so many people do it, and it's such a, you know, it's such a thing. But you're right. Like when somebody actually responds to me, I had I followed it was a band on Twitter, and they totally did the response, the auto response, direct message, whatever. And I responded to them. And the person was like, oh, hey, like totally didn't even respect her. The next day, I got the same auto respond from them as a direct message. And I was like, you're an asshat.
Crap.
You're crap. Like, seriously, what are you doing? You just totally invalidated any conversation we had because you didn't know enough to, I mean, it's just stupid. Just don't do that.
And you know, it's like, stop it immediately. But you know, it's funny because yesterday it kind of worked in reverse for me. So I had been out and roped into an event last night. Guest speaker never turned up. I happened to be there. Kat, could you step in? Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God. Outside my comfort zone. However, what was really interesting was, now I literally, as I was saying to Cara before we came on air, I literally wrote like what I was going to say. I had to talk for 20 minutes. I had 10 minutes to prepare. So I wrote it, literally scribbled it on a tiny note of paper. No slides, no follow me at S-Talk Ginger, none on my website, none of that. And, you know, see, within 20 minutes of finishing, this kind of talk was still going on. People had found me on Twitter, they'd found me on LinkedIn, they'd found my website, they'd taken my little quiz. It was hilarious. I'm sitting there going, I didn't even give anybody any of this information. And it kind of worked in reverse for me. And the conversations that I'm now having with people in my local area, which is fantastic from a getting new kind of clients point of view, It was amazing. And the amount of people that reached out to me, it was young businesses. It was a lot of kind of students who are either doing businesses just now or about to set up. And the amount of them that were reaching out, Kat, it'd be great to work with you in the future. And so it kind of works in reverse as well, but it only works if you're prepared to have a conversation. I mean, it's kind of like, I always think this is how I look at social media, how I used to do it in the beginning. I was guilty of this. And people checking it all the time as well, because this is a real time suck for you. Would you get up and check your front door every 5 minutes?
I love that, and I love it. That's such a visual for people.
It is. Would you do it? Would you go? Is it MD there? Is the postman been? Is it? It frustrates the life out of me that people would sit and, all right, okay, get my phone. Has MD? It's a complete waste of your time when you're running a business. Socially, do what the heck you like. If you're running a business that will not work for you, pick a time and choose to respond to all of the people who have reached out to you, or pick a time and reach out to new people. Back to that, setting yourself baby steps. If your job is to grow your following and people who like what you do and find those like-minded people, then you need to build in time to reach out to people and work out how you're going to do that. And have a conversation with somebody. And it's like,
so
hey,
true. I mean, okay, so I love this visual too. When was the last time you were more than 5 feet away from your phone?
Yeah, can't remember.
I'm totally guilty of that too. I'm not sitting here like preaching from like, oh, I have everything figured out, and I'm just this, whatever. But it's so true. And because it's in our hands most of the time, or,
I know.
When you start to go down the road of not being as productive because of your energy slumps and whatever, it is so easy to just, I can't focus on this right now. And you start doing the thing. And then before you know it, however, here's the trick. The other side of it, especially for me, I think, because I do social media for a business, I can in fact, do so much work from my phone, which is awesome. Right? I can sit on the couch and do half the stuff I need to do for my clients from my phone. So it's not always a bad thing. It's a matter of, I think it's more of a self-awareness thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's turning your brain on to what am I doing right now instead of that auto whatever. Scott, we've got like 10 minutes left, but welcome. Priorities, Seth. Yes, exactly. Are you coming on?
Or if you're called Scott or Daniel.
Hey, there we go.
Its time.
There you are.
Hello. Good morning. I don't know. Yeah, I want to jump in. Kara, so first of all, I just said, I follow you on Twitter, and then I saw that you're in Portland. I'm in Corvallis. I'm about 90 minutes south. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
And occasionally we pull together a tweet up in Portland at different locations. And so I add you on the list because, it's fun to meet.
Yeah.
Here.
In person.
It's great when you can get face to face.
I need to get out of the house.
And you just never know what's going to happen out of that. We've connected up with a number of people up there. So I get up there because that's where people are at. Sure. And but we've had business created out of it, connections. Nice. And so, it's fun, but it's business as well. So
that's the thing that people don't understand is the business doesn't happen by auto tweeting 10 times a day. The business happens by having all that stuff taken care of. So your foundation and your content is valuable and good, but taken care of, but then having the time to actually engage and talk to people. That's when business happens.
Right. Yeah. It's just about being where people are. And this is, when I talk with the businesses, the first, one of the first things in selling anything is making your product available to be purchased. Right. I mean, people have to know that they can buy it, and you've got to be where the people are. And you may or may not be a social media person as a business owner. You may hate Facebook, but I tell you what, your clients are there, or your potential clients are there.
Exactly.
And Guy Kawasaki says, you know what? I've got a wife, I don't know, some number of kids, dogs, guinea pigs, whatever. He goes, I don't need social media to be social. I got friends and family.
Right.
He does it strictly for business.
Yep. And it's so true.
It's a case of, it's just because you can doesn't mean to say.
And those auto tools are great, right? I mean, if you have to be, it's about efficiency, but done right, right? And
the biggest pet peeve that I have with the auto tools is when it automatically posts, say your blog, for instance, that's where I see it most often, or auto posting from Instagram to Facebook, is it doesn't post correctly for each platform. Right? There's nothing worse than seeing someone auto post from Instagram onto Facebook and they've got 30 hashtags in their post because it auto posted and it's on Facebook, and it's like, what the hell are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
So you've got to know the platform's best practices if you're going to be on it. And Kat, to your point, I get this all the time where business owners say, well, I love this platform or I hate this platform. Who cares? Where are your clients?
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. And the thing is, if it was the real world, rather than online, just as you said, it's like, if you're going to sell something, you need to find the people. Again, you can't just build it and people will magically appear. If MD again is selling you that, it is a myth, it is a lie. You need to go out and find those people. If it's the real world and you didn't like a particular coffee shop and that's where they were hanging out, you know what? You're going to have to go and buy your coffee there. That's just reality. And exactly as you say, Cara, same thing in social media. Even if you hate Facebook with a passion, if your people are there, you're not going to sell much if you don't actually go and get involved in that. It's just common sense. It's just common sense.
The example
I've been guilty of that where, as a small business owner, if you're providing a product or a service for sale, which obviously you are if you're in business, you spend so much energy and blood, sweat, and tears and everything into creating what you're selling that when you finally say it's for sale, it's like all your energy is spent and you're like, I just hope people like me and I hope people want it. And I'm so exhausted from creating this and doing this that I can't possibly put together 5 different graphics and schedule them on social media at different times to let people know that it's for sale. You kind of set yourself up for failure because you don't do the follow-up to actually put it out there.
Yeah, well, you're making assumptions then. It's back to that old point. You're making assumptions that people will want to buy what you're selling. And you could be making a whole lot of nonsense.
Other conversation of like
customer discovery is a different world.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like, get in the place that your people are at, whether that's in Facebook or on Pinterest or Twitter, whatever the heck it is. But have a conversation, please. I need to stop ranting about this.
But the example I give for being, for businesses being involved in whatever platform makes sense for their customer base is billboards. I would say, if CBS called you up and you're a small business owner, you're a plumber or whatever, CBS calls up and says, hey, Cara, tell you what, we've got this billboard out on the freeway and we're going to give it to you for free. You can put any message up there you want, change it anytime you want, phone number, website, whatever it is you want people to know about. And you say, you know what? I'm not really into billboards and I don't drive on that freeway anyway. So why would I do that?
Exactly right. Exactly.
I like that. That's really
no, it's totally true.
Perfect.
And the whole customer discovery thing is like that's a whole nother blab in and of itself. We should do that next week. But when I started trying to figure, because there's so much to social media strategy and marketing. And when I was first trying to figure out what my first offerings were going to be as far as what I was selling as a product, not as like I do socials for retainer clients, I spent, and this is how Kat and I kind of first started connecting. I connected with 20, I think it was about 20 people that I thought were my target audience. and Skyped with every single one of them and asked them questions about their frustrations with social media, where their problems are, what they want to know, all of those things. And in return, let them pick my brain a little bit about maybe what they should do on socials. And the number one thing that I got out of people was frustration with social media because of lack of knowledge. But the questions and the confusion around content on social media, their own, other people's, where do they find it, how do they do it, which is why I created the whole course that I'm doing now, the webinar yesterday, and pre-selling the course that's coming up next week after next week. And that's the customer discovery thing. If I decided to do a course on how to build your Twitter lists and how to create that, but nobody told me that that was a concern or something they wanted, crickets. Right?
Yeah.
So, because people don't really understand, it's back to that, what we always talk about, Cara, that educational phase of trying to get people to a stage where they understand why just knowing when to post every day is not going to cut it, or, you know, how to start building Twitter lists, that kind of, all that practical stuff that actually stops people getting overwhelmed. And gets people moving forward. That's really what it's about, isn't it? It's getting them educated and getting them moving forward and getting them out of that overwhelm, decombobulated feeling.
Yes, discombobulated for sure. Well, we've got 1 minute left. Do you go by Scott or do you go by whatever D is?
No, I go by Scott, but the autoresponders always call me D.
Nice. Autoresponders, right? That's how you can tell.
That's what I'm talking about, right?
Anything else you want to add? Thank you so much for joining in.
Hey, it was nice. It was nice to meet both of you. I'm following both of you. We shared it out, and Cara, we'll connect up on one of these tweet ups.
Please do.
Yeah, we've got to do that. It's somewhere in the Portland area. We meet at different wherever.
Sounds fun.
I need to move to Portland.
I'll change out of sweatpants just for that.
I don't know. It depends where we go.
It is Portland. Sweatpants are usually acceptable.
Absolutely. The Pearl is very popular for us.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you, Scott, so much for joining.
Thanks for letting me jump in, and nice to meet both of you. Have a fabulous day.
Nice to
you too.
You too. Bye.
So, Kat, that was a fun one. That was awesome. That really picked up steam at the end. Thank you, everybody, so much for showing up and comments and
the props and so many people, and absolutely fantastic. And where did the hour and a half go? And I tell you, that's what being in flow feels like.
Put another link to your quiz and or your course, because the people, I'm telling you, this quiz is so much fun, and Kat really knows what she's doing. She will look into your soul.
No, thank you, Cara. That's really kind of you. So yeah, absolutely. Please take the quiz. It takes you 2 minutes, and you get a little mini biz blueprint thing that's unique to your personality type. So just think about it as baby profiling, something to start.
It's pretty fun. It's done really well, and the fact that you linked it to your Pinterest is really smart. Really smart.
Oh yes. We'll have another chat about that Pinterest groups and stuff. Yeah, I'm going to be on your.
Yes, please do.
Thank you so much.
So, and I have my link to my content calendar class that I am selling right now. So all this stuff that we talked about having your system and learning how to do your content very quickly and efficiently, I'm teaching a master class on that. So go to that link if you're interested. And
people, it's for anybody who just wants to cut through the noise, cut through the nonsense. This is what Cara and I are about. It's just getting your
more time
done.
For Netflix and wine.
That's exactly how to sell it. I'm in.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. Have a great day. Thanks to everybody. And we'll see you next time. Same bat time.
See you later.
Same